Hey, good morning. This is us, obviously. And notice that I'm much bigger than you. Have you noticed that?
It's look, if I get up here, I'm just as big as you are. It's just that I'm sitting further back because it's uncomfortable to sit up
But
here.
you are height challenged. We have to have ladders and everything. All right, let's move on. That's a better subject.
Is this what we're talking
Yeah,
about?
well,
That I happen to be short?
I just noticed them. I loom large here. So I got a really interesting message last week from a blog reader who said that he had read in both of our blogs that we'd had issues with our families, kind of disconnected from them.
Estranged, you could say.
Strange, and he said he would love to hear us talk about that because he was having the same problem. I thought, what a good idea that was. It's a difficult subject to talk about. So of course we want to do it, and I think it's important. We live in a country where I've never seen a movie that didn't end with a family coming together, no matter what. I remember a movie I saw that won an Oscar where one mother throws her daughter out of the car on a highway. And then the movie ends with the daughter saying, "Oh, Mom, I forgive you. I love you. You're my mother." And I thought to myself, that woman should be in jail. She really, in my mind. But I think there's this whole ethic that family is everything, and family is where you go, where you have nowhere else to go. Family are the people who must take you in. And yet we know many, many people, and we are among those people who had to separate from our families in order to be healthy and to live the lives we wanted to live. So it's a good thing to talk about. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go?
Yeah. I guess I would just say that the more people I talk to, the more I see that this is not as unusual as I had thought, and that there are many people who, there are parents who don't talk to either one or more of their children. Their children don't talk to them. It just seems to happen. Like I've seen more and more of it. I don't know if since I've become, aware of it, or if it's always been that way. I'm not sure what it is, but it's not as unusual as I think we're made to think it is.
I think it's important. My family was just very difficult. They had a lot of internal difficulties. My parents really hated each other, and life there was just a constant struggle. And I was a really your classic odd, troubled child. I played hooky from school, and I was terrified of everything. And my sister had terrible trouble, and I was always trying to help her, and I couldn't. And my family wouldn't deal with her, and she ended up, and she's in an institution now, and I haven't been able to talk to her, or she doesn't talk anymore, really. So I haven't been able to talk to her for several years. And I didn't see my mother before she died, which I do regret. And my father's, they both died in their 80s. And when he died, the last thing I said to him was, "I'm sorry, he didn't really get the kid that he wanted." He said, "I know, and you didn't really get the father that you wanted." And it was the most honest thing we'd ever said to each other. When I was 11 years old, he hit me in the head with a baseball and called me a sissy. And I remember thinking, I have to get away from this guy. And so I did. I never really talked to him again. And that's a terrible thing. It's a very unfortunate, sad, painful, and unnatural thing. On the other hand, it is sometimes simply necessary to be healthy. I knew if I stayed there, they were going to do me in. And I had to get away. And I did get away, and I don't regret it. And in fact, it opened up the door for me to the kind of life that I wanted. And when I met Maria, then I really discovered what love actually was. And people who love you are actually nice to you. This was a big revelation to me.
Right.
And it feels good to be around them. So that's a brief story of my family. It's a very sad story. I'm not in touch with anyone in it, really. And my brother's alive, and we never talk to each other. And I can't talk to my sister anymore, who I did love and very much. So, but I don't regret the fact that we have disconnected from that. I think it really benefited me, saved my life, really. And then I met Maria, who I think was, when I met her, was in somewhat of a similar dilemma. I shouldn't be speaking for you, so pick it up there, Kate.
Yeah, well, I think the important thing is that it took me many years to separate from my family, and I was really only able to do it completely and inside of myself once my mother died. My father's been dead a long time, And the rest of my family, it was, little easier with them, but still very, very difficult thing to do that went on for years and years. And there just came a point where I knew, like John said, that it was just very unhealthy for me to be around them. And healthy in the way where I was having mental health issues from being around them, panic attacks, great anxiety, and even dissociation, where I would feel like I was outside of my body, looking in. And once that happened, the last time that happened, I thought to myself, I just can't put myself into this situation anymore. And again, there was great guilt, and we couldn't talk. I couldn't talk to anyone about it because nobody wanted to talk about it. And so it was a very hard thing to do. But the freedom that I feel once I was actually able to do it and to become my full self and not have to have that, it was kind of like an anchor, this weight that was always there. And when that was gone, which is really only recently, completely within the past couple of years, my life really changed, really opened up. And it started with John. I mean, it started with him when I used to go to dinner at my family's house every Sunday. And I became friends with John, and he said to me, I notice you get depressed usually around the weekends. And then like the beginning of the week, you're feeling good again. And I would go into this depression at the thought of going to those family dinners. And always in my mind, I had these rescue scenarios at the dinners, these ways of getting out of it. That was my own fantasies. But finally, I was able to do it. I was able to say, I'm not coming anymore. And I didn't even know I didn't have to go. When John said to me, you don't have to go, it doesn't feel, it's not good for you, you don't have to go. And I didn't even know that. It was like, really? I don't have to go? It opened up this whole world to me, which I think shows the extent of, how problematic my family really was for me,
I remember that was really one of our big coming together moments. I was flabbergasted. Maria was working on my farm. That's how we kind of had an arrangement. She'd get the barn, and she took care of the animals on weekends. And we would sit and have tea for 10 or 15 minutes. And when I remember when you say that you were nervous about not going, you were terrified of going. You were terrified.
Oh, I would get very
You'd begin
depressed.
2 or 3 days
Yeah.
before, and it was like
Yeah.
a horror. And we finally talked about it very briefly. And I said, you don't have to go. But what amazed me still to this day is that you didn't know that you didn't
I didn't
have to
know.
go.
I didn't know. I thought, well,
And
of
you're a
course I
very
have
strong,
to go.
independent person. And I don't. If I tell you do something you don't want to do, I hear about it right away. And so you didn't know that, and that told me how bad a situation that was for you.
Right.
My situation was equally strange. I was a very odd kid. I would steal money all over the place. I had a fish period. I was breeding tropical fish, tanks all over the place in my room, and nobody ever asked me where the fish came from or where the money came from or what I was doing with them. And I missed school. I played hooky maybe half the time. And I would hide out in bushes and stuff in Providence. Nobody asked me where I was going, why I was on hooky. Nobody asked me anything. And so I really deteriorated. I mean, you can't really grow up healthy like that. And when I was with them, it was really awful.
And I think we finally really started to get really healthy and be able to say, okay, this isn't good for me, when we came together and when we found each other. And when we, like you said, I never knew what love was either. Was love guilt? Was love obligation? This idea of having to take care of someone. It's like, now I never knew what love was until I met you. And then I saw that the other things that were going on, they weren't love. I mean, maybe there's some person's idea of love, but they're not my idea of love. And they weren't good for me. And it, you care about me. You really care about me and who I am. Plus, you knew me. I feel like I had never been known before. It's very hard not to be known within your own family. And when those are the people around you, that's that thing. The people around you, these are the people who are supposed to make you feel safe and you're supposed to be able to trust. And when you can't trust them, it really just destroys your whole world. It colors your whole way of seeing things.
In your case, it was even more dangerous than that. I won't get into the details of it, obviously, but you had very good reasons to be terrified of those people. And I think the message that I'd love to convey to my friend who emailed me and everybody else, it's okay if you have to do that. I don't care what you see in the movies or what the culture tells you. Family is not everything always. It's a very important thing, and I would love to have had a good, close family relationship in my life. I do now. But it's okay that I left. It's okay that she left.
That's right.
We did it to save ourselves. We did it to be good. And I don't care what every producer says in a movie. It's not always a place you can go. And so you need to prepare yourself for that. We don't have that backup. We don't have a place we can go other than each other here, where we can go to if we need to. We're the place.
And I think when I realized that I was going to be leaving my family behind, I really started to look for, creating a new family of people through friends, and not saying, I need you to depend on you to, I don't know, to save me or whatever, but just to have community, to have people who I can trust and I can talk to, and finding them and growing my own family. And I intentionally did that. I consciously did that.
And I've seen it. This is a family that loves you, and that cares about you,
Yeah.
and that it's fun. You look forward to seeing them. I can't wait to go see my friend.
Yeah,
I can't wait
right.
to talk to them. That's what a real relationship is.
Right.
That's what families should be.
And it doesn't mean that everything's perfect and that you never argue or you never get annoyed with each other. But underneath it is that base of caring for each other and love. That there's certain things that you wouldn't do to each other. That matter.
And we also we really are building a family around us. That I have a couple of young friends who I'm really friends with, and I enjoy being with them. Maria has some wonderful friends she sees regularly and makes a point of keeping them in her life.
You also have your blog. You have a lot of people
I have
on
my
your
blog,
blog.
and I'm learning that a lot of them are friends.
Yeah.
And we have good
And
conversations.
it's community. It's community.
And the food pantry has been a great family for me.
Yeah.
I love those people, and I love being there, and we doing something important together. But I think love is really when you love somebody else more than you love yourself. I think that's, for me, that was the landmark for learning what love was. When I cared more about her than I cared about me. Before that, there wasn't anyone in my life like that.
Although I have to say, I spent a good part of my life caring for other people more than myself, and that was a bad thing. Because you do have to be able to take care of yourself and put yourself
You're sure over
first.
that, aren't you?
Say, I need this for myself. You have to be able to do that. So for me, it's a little different.
Well, and it's this coming of age, which comes sometimes when you separate. What you said was very important about you began life when you got away from them.
Yeah, I couldn't.
That's
I
when
couldn't
your
really
life began.
be
That's
full
when you
until I did.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember, you didn't think you could do anything. You didn't think you could work.
Oh,
You didn't
boy,
think.
yeah, I got.
Remember, I had to dance naked. I had to get you to send
I
your
was in a
first
bad.
potholder
I
out there.
had fallen into a bad place, and I couldn't. I was afraid. I was afraid I couldn't even get like, how do you get an apartment? I had to get an apartment. I got divorced, and where am I going to find a job? Because we had been working.
That's when I started
and,
stocking my house with chocolates and the cheese. And she began. I knew it.
You make me sound like a rat.
I reeled her in that way. Put a little wine there and some cheese, and she was there.
That's all it takes.
I think the important part is you have to take care of yourself. And if it's not meaningful for you, if it's not helping you, if it's unhealthy for you, you have to get out. It's as simple as that. And you have to go away. And you can't be, at least I'm speaking for me, you can't be bound by these other people's rules of what's important. I mean, how many people have told me in my life, oh, family's everything. Family's my everything. It's a place I always know I can go to. I don't think that's a very healthy relationship, personally.
Well, no, it's good for some people and it works for some people.
Sure, if it works for them, great.
And there's a lot of people it works for, but there's a lot of people it doesn't work for, and there are many reasons why it doesn't work. And it can be an awful place instead of being a loving and caring place, or a place where maybe you don't want to go all the time, but you do feel like you can be secure there. But if you can't, and I don't know. I just feel like sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and sometimes it's very painful. I love my mother, and she loved me, and she was a major implement, but she was very messed up and did a lot of things to me that were not healthy and helpful, and I had to get away from that.
I think that's also, it's not like 100%. It's
Right.
not like, oh, you don't always know. You don't. It's complicated. It's complex because there's love there and there's all kinds of feelings. And so it's like, well, they were good here and they did this for me and they did that for me, but it's complicated. It's difficult.
And I met Maria when I was already in my late 60s, and I didn't know what love was like. I didn't know how important a family could be. And I'm not saying family's unimportant. They can be extremely important. But sometimes the power of families is to leave, get away, and live your life and not be guilty about it. And I think that's my friend who wrote me the email was saying he feels guilty, but he can't handle it. He really fights with them all the time and blah blah blah. And then some of the political angst the country's going through comes up here now because families are fighting all the time about blue and red and this and that. And that's a sign of the unhealthiness that real families, I think, get over that and see their love for each other as more important than who they voted for. So I think that's, I don't know, I think we did
I think we're
16
good.
minutes.
Yeah,
I think
that's
we're
a
good.
long one.
I don't think we have anything more to say.
No, I'm kind of.
Oh, so, well, you asked for it, so you got it. And it's good to see you up at my level.
Your level.
She's
Your
sitting,
level.
She's sitting on a child stool.
I got a couple of phone books underneath me. That's all.
You get your phone book. All right. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next week. And thanks for coming.
Bye. Thanks
Bye-bye.
for coming.